We have a breaking NBC News story for you that's just another example of Trump inserting his hardline agenda into other sovereign countries, or as George Carlin put it, we're going to see how he's effing with people today. Now, in the FAFO breaking story that we have, it takes us down south to Panama for your reigning POTUS's dangerous plans for the Panama Canal that are premised on a mythology that he spews for his own political convenience. Now, here's a great bit of background and myth-busting from Democracy Now! You know, they are as good as it gets when it comes to getting to the truth. And after this clip, we'll have our breaking story of Trump's latest plan to pick the locks on the Panama Canal. But first, the great Amy Goodman.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. During Monday's inauguration, Donald Trump repeated his threat to retake the Panama Canal. The U.S. controlled the waterway since the early 20th century, but in 1977, President Jimmy Carter signed a landmark treaty to give Panama control of its canal. This is Trump speaking Monday.
We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made, and Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
That was President Trump in his inaugural address, standing in the Capitol Rotunda where Jimmy Carter just lay in state, who had given the control of the canal back to Panama. I believe it was the first time in a century that a president in an inaugural address talked about seizing more land. Juan Gonzalez, can you talk about the significance of this?
Yeah, Amy, I think not only was it audacious of Trump to claim he's going to take back the canal, but he was his statement just before that clip that 38,000 Americans died building the Panama Canal is grossly false. The fact is that during the construction of the canal from 1904 to 1914, a far smaller number of people died, about 5,600. But most of those people were not Americans. They were Black West Indian laborers who were imported by the Panama Canal Company. Only about 350 white Americans died in the construction of the canal. That's about 100 times less than what Trump claimed in his speech. And most importantly, very few Americans are aware that the federal government, specifically Teddy Roosevelt, had to engineer and bankroll the creation of the country of Panama. Panama was then a province of Colombia, but Colombia was refusing to grant the United States sovereignty over the Panama Canal Zone, which it demanded. And so Roosevelt actually bankrolled an uprising to create the country of Panama. And the first thing that the new puppet government of Panama did was to sign the Hay-Buenaventura Treaty of 1903 that gave the United States everything it wanted. So from the beginning, the Panama Canal was created at gunpoint by the United States. And it was only after massive protests in the 1960s by the Panamanian people demanding an end to that imposition that finally President Carter and the Senate agreed to return the land to Panama and allow Panama to actually operate the canal. So the entire myth that Trump has created is totally false and needs to be challenged.
And of course, we'll continue to cover this issue.
As will we, Amy, with this NBC News breaking report. The White House has directed U.S. military to draw up options for increasing the American troop presence in Panama to achieve President Trump's goal of reclaiming the Panama Canal, according to two U.S. officials familiar with the planning. During a joint address to Congress last week, Trump said, "To further enhance our national security, my administration will be reclaiming the Panama Canal." Since then, administration officials have not said what reclaiming means. U.S. Southern Command is developing potential plans that vary from partnering more closely with the Panamanian military to the less likely option of U.S. troops seizing the Panama Canal by force, the officials said. Whether military force is used, the officials added, depends on how much the Panamanian military agrees to partner with the U.S. The Trump administration's goal is to increase the U.S. military presence in Panama to diminish China's influence there, particularly access to the canal, the official said. Both Panama and China deny there is any foreign interference in the 50-mile canal, whose neutrality is enshrined in Panama's constitution. Chinese officials have accused the U.S. of using coercion to pressure Panamanian officials to block Chinese aid projects. The U.S. officials told NBC News that the commander of U.S. Southern Command, Admiral Alvin Halsey, presented draft strategies to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth this week. Hegseth is expected to visit Panama next month. The officials cautioned that a U.S. invasion of Panama is unlikely and would only come under serious consideration if a larger American military presence in Panama does not achieve President Donald Trump's goal of reclaiming the waterway, the officials said. Neither the Pentagon nor the Panamanian embassy in Washington immediately responded to a request for comment. Privately, Trump has told his advisors that he sees a U.S. military presence in Panama and on the canal itself as critical to that effort, the U.S. officials said. Trump has also made it clear that he wants U.S. service members to be visible in the canal zone as a show of force. During a visit to Panama last month, Secretary of State Marco Rubio told Panamanian President Jose Raul Molino that the status quo is unacceptable regarding China's presence in Panama. Molino has said that the Panamanian government alone administers the canal and denied ceding operation of the canal to China in any way. The U.S. military currently has more than 200 troops in Panama, but the number fluctuates as troops rotate in and out, according to a defense official who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Some of those troops include special force units working with Panamanian forces to protect the country from internal threats, insurgencies, or unrest. There are also discussions about opening Army jungle schools or training camps in Panama, like the ones U.S. troops trained in jungle warfare until the canal was formally handed over to Panama in 1999. The U.S. investment company BlackRock is part of a group buying a 90% stake in the Panama Ports Company, which operates the ports of Balboa and Cristobal on the Pacific and Atlantic ends of the canal. The stake is being purchased from a Hong Kong-based firm, C.K. Hutchinson, for $22.8 billion. Yeah, sure, we could be looking at a democratic spring where the flowers bloom with hope and government checks blossom in mailboxes, but alas, we have this: fear, threats, and intimidation at home and abroad. As BlackRock and its ilk become Trump's privatizers of government services, and no doubt Kid Rock wins next year's Kennedy Center honors for his contribution to excellence in American culture, we're all left to just look back and say, geez, give me the good old days of David Lee Roth.